Using Podcasts in Education. My name is Demosa Webber-Bey, and I go to the Pratt School of Information and Library Science. October 2012. What are podcasts? You're listening to one right now. A podcast is generally known as an audio file that could be downloaded to the iPod. But now a podcast can be a video file. It can also be something that's streamed from the internet. But getting more specific, in 2012, a researcher divided podcasts into 4 categories, 4 different kinds. There's the lecture, the enhanced podcast, supplementary podcasts, and worked examples. In 2010, a researcher determined that lecture is the number one way that faculty is using podcasts, an audio-video recording of the entire thing. After that were supplementary podcasts, so administrative, communication, summaries before exams, things like that. What you're listening to right now is an enhanced podcast because it's PowerPoint with audio. So where do podcasts fit into the curriculum? Griffin, Mitchell, and Thompson in 2009 came up with the 4 P's of e-lectures: place, pace, piece, and process. Basically, these are ways that students control how they get information. They can get it where they want it, as fast or as slow as they do, in a place where they feel comfortable, and they basically own the entire process. In 2009, Hugh took a look at how podcasts were being used in education. Most learners prefer 5 to 10 minute podcasts, although lectures is what they're getting mostly, that are longer. And contrary to the hypothesis that people would multitask and listen to podcasts on mobile devices, a lot of learners just access them at home on a personal computer, and they focus on them. So we're going to take a look very quickly at some of the podcasts. First one is Mass Media. This is This American Life. It's a weekly podcast, and you can see that you can download it. They have a transcript, what we're going to go ahead and play.
From WBZ Chicago, it's This American Life, distributed by Public Radio International.
This is going to take a while because there's so many pictures. Yeah, he definitely defeated the system a little bit here.
Laura Mayer is the editor-in-chief of her high school yearbook, and she's noticed that last year's book had a problem. In a lot of the club pictures, there's one kid who appears over and over and over, too many times to actually be in all the clubs.
I think he probably did this all in one day. I'm going to take a look. I know he's...
All right, we'll pause it there. This is an example of a conversation between 2 people. We can click on the transcript, and then you can see the back and forth. So this is good for users with special needs because we have the audio and then we also have the transcript. The next one we're taking a look at is an example of an academic institution that has a podcast. This is the Entrepreneurial Thought Leaders at Stanford University. But they make it publicly available, so we'll listen to Wendy Koop from Teach for America.
You are listening to the DFJ Entrepreneurial Thought Leader Series.
You can hear that they start with a jingle.
Technology Ventures Program. You can find podcasts and videos
and you
of
can
these
embed
online
this podcast
@ecorner.stanford.edu.
right into your, web page.
It's my pleasure to introduce Wendy Kopp. As you likely know,
And then they have an ability to navigate, so we'll navigate away here. You can go to a specific place in the podcast, just like you would go to a specific chapter in a book.
People from elite colleges are not necessarily the best teachers for kids in this context, that the Teach for America Corps members are not skilled enough, well prepared enough after summer training, and that this is a Band-Aid program because they just, people who commit 2 years, how can that solve the whole problem? Is that, okay.
Right. We'll stop right there. We'll never know. And this is an example of a website that I created with students in a comic book club in my high school that I worked in, and we have a podcast here where we're debating if Superman or Captain Underpants would win, Batman or Captain Underpants would win in hand-to-hand combat.
Okay, so what's the vote?
Batman.
I go for Batman.
Captain Underpants.
I have to go with Batman, but only because he has that bat shark repellent. If he didn't have
How
that,
much crime is underwater? What shark is gonna come after him? More useless than Aquaman.
So we used a laptop and a microphone to record those and then edited them in Audacity, and the students added video. Those are 3 examples of wonderful podcasts, and the question now is, why are you not using them? Well, a researcher took a look into that and saw some obstacles for faculty in trying to integrate podcasting. There are technological issues. It takes time to make a podcast. One of the important ones for professors that are working towards tenure, innovation in technology use is not always recognized. And so they may not devote time to creating online materials and podcasts if it's not something that they'll get measured by. Impact and attendance is another issue. How will using podcasts and putting a lecture affect attendance in your classroom if you put it online? Absenteeism, it turns out, is associated with access to online course materials. So the more access somebody has to online course materials, the more that absence increases, just generally with the group. Also, so this shows that lecture podcasts could replace going to class. So when should you use podcasts? You're worried about attendance, you're worried about tenure, but you're still trying to see how they could fit. So Boggs, Bollinger, and Subancorn feel that you could use them to connect with online learners, students that are in your classroom, but also distance students. And you can get their attention when you're there in their world. You can humanize e-learning, and basically it feels more like the classroom when they can hear your voice. Reduces isolation that's associated with distance learning. In another 2010 study, the researcher said we just need to embrace internet communication technology. You have to modernize. You have to compete. Universities are trying to compete for student money. Students are trying to get the best they can for their dollar. And fitting in with that, you want to meet demand. They're trying to get the best that they can. And inverting the curriculum. If you assign lectures as homework, since they accomplish the same whether they're face-to-face or online, then you can use class time to engage with students and do hands-on activities. So the next question is, how do you make a podcast? Now you're really interested. And there are 2 studies that the researchers identified different kinds of technology that could be used. So we'll take a look very quickly at a couple. For free or low cost, we'll take a look at Audacity. And this is open source software that you can download. I've got this on my computer. Right. If you would like to make a screen capture, which is what you're watching right now, like a little movie of yourself, then I'm using Camtasia, so we'll take a look at that one. Screen recording and video editing software. Interactive videos with clickable links, table of contents, search, and much more. That's ideal. And Zetto in 2011 gave some tips for DIY, just regular audio podcasting. Said you've got to choose your format. You've got to think about what kind of technology, starting with the hardware, a microphone, and then the software, Skype, GarageBand, Audacity, TalkShoe, or some programs that you could use. You've got to edit when you're done, clean it up. Publishing means uploading the file, filling out metadata like the location, the date, the author. HTML code helps to embed an MP3 file into a web page. So you can just do a little cut and paste here with some HTML code and have your podcast play right on your website, just like This American Life. And then finally, you want to be discoverable. You want people to know you did this, so you can advertise on a blog. And there's the Internet Archive, Audio Archive. This is a place where you can contribute your audio tracks and have things saved for all posterity, but you have to log in and register. All right. So once again, Camtasia, that is the software that we're using. We'll take a look and see that running down here in the corner, 1247. So who can help you to start the podcast? Now that you are ready to do it, of course, you can go to the librarian. You can go to the Digital Humanities Center if you have one. You can go to the Center for New Media Teaching and Learning. But you do have friends online, and one is familiar. That is Apple. They're the ones who invented the term podcast, and they have iTunes University. This is somewhere where you can organize your podcasts kind of like songs in iTunes. You can have lectures from other presenters. Students can kind of get into private, behind a firewall YouTube experiences with content for your class. And basically you can create an outlet for personal content publishing. This is where you can put some of your work. In 2009, Dyke, Luber, and McKinney came up with the idea that perhaps podcasts would replace professors. And they talk about this software called Profcast. So we'll look at that very quickly. And Profcast, versatile power, very simple tool for recording lectures, including PowerPoint. Live presentation recording, synchronize your slides with audio. It's lecture podcast software. So it's got our favorite activity as educators, our tool that we're trying to use, all tied up into one. And so with Profcast, it works for Mac or PC. You're making enhanced podcasts like the one that you're watching right now. They've got chapter markers so that somebody can navigate, get to the part that they want when they're trying to review, and you synchronize with audio. So that's it. These are some of the references if you're interested in doing some further reading, getting some more details about how you can use podcasts as an educational tool in your classroom. This is me. If you need to contact me with any questions, thank you for listening to this podcast about podcasting.